Oh, if you want to see a Philadelphia police officer in 1980s really get furious, be black and then also care about animal rights. You throw that in there. The move bombing, which I'm wondering how many of you even know what that is. Some of you may know if you watch my stuff or if you've read things like Howard Zinn, etc. But it's largely covered up and largely ignored, even though it happened in 1985. It's not that long ago. The move bombing, but I'll give you that history in a second in case you don't know about it in Philadelphia. But this article centers on Mike Africa Jr. The last time Mike Africa Jr. stepped across the threshold of Jesus Christ, 6221 Osage, is it? Osage Avenue in Philadelphia was almost 4 decades ago. At 5:27, so here's the history part. Now they're talking about him returning to the site is modern day, and I'll get back to that. But at 5:27 p.m. on May 13th, 1985, a state helicopter, a Pennsylvania state helicopter, I have not shared the visual yet, a Pennsylvania state helicopter commissioned by Philadelphia police flew low over the property. This is in central Philadelphia, and dropped a bomb made of C4 plastic explosives directly on it. This is in 1986 in Philadelphia. The device ignited a fire that turned into an inferno that was then notoriously allowed to burn by Philadelphia authorities intent on driving the black radical organization out of the city. 11 people trapped inside the move house at 6221 Osage Avenue died in the conflagration. Among them, which is, that's when you're trying to say fire, but you want to sound smarter. Among them were 5 children. Mike Africa's friends, Tommaso maybe, age 9, Netta and little Phil, both 12, Delisha, 13, and Tree, 14. So those are 5 of the children that were killed in this bombing by Philadelphia police. In 2020, and actually some of the history that they're a little bit skipping over is, so a bunch of other people died, 5 children, I think maybe 11 others. I think we'll find out later. But, or did I already say it? No. But the police had already arrested several of these people. Basically, they were well, we'll get to that. But they were a black radical organization. I mean, I think they considered themselves radical. Sometimes radical is used as a propaganda term where you say like, oh, that's radical ideology. But other people take and hold radical as something they're proud of. I'm not sure whether this is a propaganda situation or not, but it was a black liberation organization. MOVE was MOVE. And the cops had arrested several of them and put them in prison. And when they got out, the cops still weren't done. The cops were angry that they basically got out of prison and continued their work, continued to have an area there where people could live and a community there. And anyway, let me go on because I'm going to repeat myself if I keep getting into it. So in 2020, Mike Africa Jr. persuaded the city council to create an annual day of observation, reflection, and recommitment marking the anniversary. He's purchased the row house that was rebuilt out of the ashes with the intention in time of converting it to a memorial for those who have died. So here's the list of people who died, all the victims. So I guess it was 11, including the children, including the 5 children. John Africa founded MOVE in 1972 and was the revered head of the organization. The group, which regarded itself as a family in which each member took the name Africa, was committed partly to Black equality and racial justice, and partly to early notions of environmental protection and animal rights. So you can imagine how much the police hated these people. They're Black liberation. They're almost entirely a Black group. They're going against the mainstream. They're refusing to be kind of pushed aside and put outside of respectable society. They're forcing their way in to make the points that they want to make. And then on top of that, they care about animal rights. Oh, if you want to see a Philadelphia police officer in 1980s really get furious, be Black and then also care about animal rights. You throw that in there. It's like, dude, they fucking hated you to begin with, and then you said they shouldn't be eating bacon all day, shouldn't be eating steak, shouldn't be eating pork. I think that really set them off. You tell them they can't have a burger on a Friday, and at the same time, you have the nerve to be Black. Wow. What an awful human being you must be in the eyes of the Philadelphia police. And environmental protection as well. Environmental protection to boot. Jesus. Moves unconventional and noisy way of living. And by that, they mean members would stand on the roof shouting lengthy political screeds through a bullhorn. Attracted the hostility of the, I thought we used to have freedom of speech. Is that what it was called in this country? I can't remember. Sounded something like that. But apparently, if you do it in a bullhorn, then it's not free anymore. Their unconventional and noisy way of living attracted the hostility of the then legendarily brutal Philadelphia police. Confrontation culminated in 1978 in a siege and shootout at the MOVE headquarters in Powelton Village, in which one police officer was killed and several MOVE members arrested. Both Mike Africa's parents were rounded up and imprisoned for decades. Mike Africa himself was born in a cell just days after the siege and would have to wait until he was in his 40s to be reunited with his parents outside of prison. So the cops do everything they can to wreck these people's lives and ultimately end up in a shootout. Who knows? I mean, someone I'm sure does, but you're not going to get it from this history or from the official history, how that shootout began. Or these people very well might have been defending themselves. But anyway, the cops are furious. They lock up Mike Africa's parents for decades. He was born in prison. And then I guess it's kind of lucky if he and his parents, if his parents hadn't been the ones arrested before. So in 1978, 7 years prior, they might have been there. They might have been there when the fire killed so many. Both Mike Africa's parents. I did that. The fire that ravaged Osage Avenue and the adjoining Pine Street. Oh, so now I will show you the image again in case you missed it. This is the aftermath. I mean, unbelievable devastation. Just dozens of houses either destroyed or damaged. And of course, at least 11 dead. And this is our history in the 1980s. And I didn't learn about this until 5 years ago or something, 5 or 7 years ago. Most Americans don't know about it. It's just it's utterly unbelievable that you could have this kind of catastrophic harm done in America in the 80s, no less, when people had fucking cameras where they could go ka-chink, ka-chink, and take photos that were fucking photos. It's not like you had a guy with a fucking charcoal pencil. And yet it's all largely been covered up, largely been left for time to forget. The fire ravaged the area. It razed 60. Oh, there's the number. 60. I said dozen. 61 houses to the ground. They destroyed 61 houses with this bombing and fire, dropping from a helicopter C4 bombs onto these houses. About 236 people, all but one of them African American, were left homeless. 236. For years afterwards, a 24/7 police presence was maintained at 6221 with officers billeted inside the property in order to prevent James. So I skipped over it, but James was the the brother. No, she's the sister of John Africa, who founded it. And she was the part owner of these houses. And so that when they say James, that's who they're talking about. For years afterwards, a 24/7 police presence was maintained there inside the property just to prevent her, James, or anyone else connected to Move from reoccupying the address. For years, after they rebuilt the buildings, they left a 24/7 police presence just to make sure no one from the Move group could be in the building. After you've murdered 11 of them, locked up several others, and burned down 61 houses. We're going to send cops there and make sure they don't do anything. I mean, so anyway, the reason this is current news and not just a history lesson, although I do love history lessons. We did cover it on my podcast, Government Secrets. If you like history stuff like this, that's the podcast for you, Government Secrets. But the reason this is modern news is that Mike Africa Jr. has through a loan and donations a massive loan, has bought the property and plans to turn it into a museum or something of the sort. So very interesting, and certainly not something you're getting on your mainstream media. Certainly not.